Good evening. Good evening. Tonight we are in the middle of the third chapter of Tanya. We learned that the mind is a very powerful tool because the mind not only controls our body, the brain controls our body, but the mind also controls our emotions. And in Tanya, he brought a quote from the Sefer Yetzirah, the first Kabbalah Sefer, the first book of Kabbalah, that the three intellectual qualities, Chachma, Bina, Das, Chabad, they are the mothers, Imais, Shalosh Imais, the three mothers of emotion. And there are 7 emotions that the Kabbalah talks about: love, fear or discipline. And the mothers, or the father and mother, the parents of these emotions, are in the mind. And today we're going to go into the meditation process through which the mind can actually give birth. That's a terminology used, give birth to emotions. And this is something that's very important because it's telling us that we are in control of our emotions, that we can change our emotions. And the key to getting into the heart or to getting into our emotion is through the mind. You can't force a feeling, but you could decide what thoughts to think. You can't decide, I'm going to love or I'm going to hate. I'm going to desire, I'm going to want. If I want, I want. If I don't want, I don't want. But you can choose what to think about. You could choose what to meditate about. You could even force yourself to meditate about certain things and convince yourself, if the logic is right, and hopefully you're not delusional, you can meditate, and by meditation and thinking deeply about things, hopefully which are correct and logical, but you're not paying attention to them. You're not realizing these ideas. But upon thought, and what we call here meditation, it'll have an effect and give birth to the right feelings that will be in accordance with this meditation. Now, the meditation process that he's going to be speaking about over here is concerning our relationship with Hashem, to have a sense towards godliness, awe, love, and so on. But before we go into the specific meditation about our relationship with Hashem, let's illustrate it, how the meditation works, specifically in human terms. The word meditation has come to be used in a very broad sense. And it's been used in Eastern religions. Different cultures have different forms of meditation. There's secular meditation. And lahavdil, in Judaism, especially Kabbalah and Hasidus, there's meditation to develop our relationship with Hashem. But even in what we call a secular meditation, the God factor makes a big difference. Now I'll make an illustration of this. First, how the meditation works, and also the God factor. But first of all, we have to realize that meditation is not just thinking about something, not thinking lightly. For meditation to give birth to feelings, to create feelings, has to be what's called meditation, and in the words of Tanya, deep thought. And I'm going to use the words that he uses over here. In the first line we were up to. When the seichel, the intelligence, of the intellectual soul, Two words, mizboinen, thinks about, umaymik mo'oid, very deeply. So first you're talking about meditation, is thinking deeply about something. Right? When you want to give birth to something, you have to have a mother and a father around and dedicated, and they want to give birth to something. And then is, of course, the birth pangs. It doesn't happen by itself. Similarly, if you want to change an emotion, or you want to develop an emotion, you want to develop a relationship, and you want the meditation to change the person, it's not just light thought that comes and goes. The first line he says to think, umaymik mo'ed, deeply, amuk. Later on, towards the end of this chapter, which we're going to get to later this evening, he uses the word vayiska machshavtoi b'choizik. He focuses strongly, strong focus. Here we have another word. Focus, strong focus. Ubahasmoda, consistently. So this is not really easy for the smartphone generation, where the attention span of the average human being is becoming lesser and lesser by the day, certainly by the year. The average person is having a lesser and lesser attention span, and certainly the young kids who are brought up with the smartphone and all these gadgets that are working so fast. So it's a lot of quantity, but not so much quality. But when you want to meditate to create an emotion, so here you have three words: deep, focused, and consistently. And think of the power of the human mind that Hashem gives us, and how we're actually neglecting it, even for secular purposes. Are we thinking deeply? Are we consistently thinking? Are we focused? So Hashem gave us a mind that has awesome power, and that power could change our whole emotional state and emotional condition to create healthy, sane, positive energy and feelings and emotions in us. But it takes meditating. And the Jewish definition of meditation, or the Tanya definition of meditation is cognitive, is thinking it through, making the logical connection, and being focused, and that will give birth to emotions. So let's take, for example, self-esteem. A person has low self-esteem. Psychologists, psychiatrists saying this is one of the biggest problems in society today. People have low self-esteem. So now you have to meditate. Tanya is saying you have to work on your mind and think deeply. And maybe a psychologist will guide a person and tell him, why do you have low self-esteem? Look at your marks. You have above average marks. Think about it. And you're a great guy, and you're kind, and you volunteer. You have great things going for you. You're good looking, and you have so many good qualities about yourself. So if a person's going to focus on that and think deeply about that, and really make a logical connection, listen, you have a lot of things going for you. So if he doesn't have other problems, there may be chemical imbalances, which I'm not going to go into that. That's a different problem. But Tanya is teaching us, and this is, as I said before, based on the Sefer Yetzirah Shalashim, is the intellect is the mothers of emotion. So if a person is going to meditate and focus and think deeply, he'll be able to change his feelings towards himself and be positive. And that's even in a secular way. You can have a secular person who can use these techniques. And we're going to get into more details how it's in Chachma and Bina and Das to make change in his emotions. And certainly if he's going to put the religious factor into his meditation to develop self-esteem, what I like to say, the God factor into his meditation. And to think about himself, that Hashem created him. So Hashem created 7 billion people and him. Hashem didn't have to create him. So Hashem made him, Hashem invested in him. Hashem is watching him, watching over him. So if he's important to Hashem, who is the infinite creator of everything in all big universe, and Hashem is watching over him, then he is important. And if he thinks about what we learned in the 2nd chapter, that he's chelek elokah memal mamish, that he is part of Hashem, and he's the Son of God. These are the terms that the Torah uses. He's the Son of God because he has a godly spark in him, and the DNA of Hashem is in him. So what do you think? What do you mean you're nothing? What do you mean you're a loser? How can you be a loser? How can you be? If you have infinite qualities in yourself, you have Hashem in you, you have godly DNA in you, how can you be a loser? So that is an additional meditation even to the secular meditation. So it's not being delusional about some mishagas and talk yourself into something. The meditation that Torah speaks about, Torah's emes, is a truthful Torah, is to think thoughts that are true, and especially godly thoughts. It will change you and you'll give birth to this positive emotion. Now specifically in Tanya, he's going to proceed to explain how someone can have a relationship with Hashem and have a sense towards Hashem, and this is going to be through meditation. And he explains that he is mizbainin u'mamek ma'id b'gdulas Hashem, about the greatness of God, the majesty of God. Eichu memala kol almin v'soiviv kol almin. Literally translated, it means he fills the worlds and he transcends the worlds. These two terms, memala kol almin and soiviv kol almin, are terms taken from the Zohar. They're terms of Kabbalah. And Chassidus explains in depth what this refers to. But here now we're talking about meditating about how Hashem is awesome. Now you can meditate about Hashem being awesome by just watching a sunrise or a sunset. People go to the Grand Canyon, and I've been to the Grand Canyon. My son is in Arizona, a shliach there. It is awesome. It's awesome. And you can see from the top, it's awesome. Then you go down, I couldn't go down too much. I went down for an hour. Remember, an hour climb down, you have to go now 2 hours back up. But it was worth it. It's awesome. Go down, you see a part of it. It's awesome. So there's a big world. There's an awesome world. So Hashem fills the world, and Hashem transcends the world. And that is supposed to give you a sense of awe. Now, what does it mean Hashem fills the world? Memala kol almin, Hashem fills the world, means there's godliness that comes down to our level. Just like the soul gives life to the body, there's energy in me. That's the energy that relates to the physical. It's an energy, it's not infinite energy. It's energy that gives my mind the energy to think, that gets the blood moving in my body, the nefesh, Bahamas, the nefesh is in the blood. It gives me energy so that I can do what I have to do. Similarly, the energy that gives the power to everything in this world, this is Mamala Kol Almin. And this is awesome itself. Statistics that I love. How many cells are there in the human body? Cells. If you break the human body, they're living cells. And how many cells? And a cell has its own compartment and its own makeup. And there are several ingredients to what makes one cell. So the estimate that they're giving, and discussion how you define a cell and so on, 37 trillion cells in the human body. 37 trillion cells. So that's each cell, and each cell is separate from the other cell. 37 trillion cells. I don't know if you'll count to 37 trillion from now. I don't know how long it's going to take you to count from 1 to 37 trillion. But that's how much there's in one human body. So Hashem gives Mamalo Kalam into each cell. There are 8.7 million species of animals. Species. And in each species, how many are in each species? Some have more, some have less. So there's a big world out there. And I'm not just speaking about these two examples. So in every cell, every atom has godly energy that Mamalo Kalalman, that he comes into the world to actually give existence and sustenance according to the specific level and nature of each one of these worlds. So that is what one has to think about, how Hashem relates to the world. And that is going to move us more and have a sense of awe, because relate to that, the world of nature, so to say, the God of nature, God in nature. But then, if God is only the God in nature, then He's limited. If you look up in the dictionary, God, let's say, creator. But God, the creator, in Jewish philosophy, especially Hasidic philosophy and Kabbalah philosophy, God, the creator, is limiting Hashem. God, the creator, is one limited form of the way Hashem expresses himself. And Hasidic literature explains that to say God, the creator, would be limiting Hashem. It's as if you'd say a diamond. You know the diamond? It's a diamond. You know what a diamond could be used for? Cracking nuts. It's hard. And actually, when they dig for oil, the bottom of the drills has diamonds. But they're rough, primitive diamonds. They have diamonds because it's very hard, so you can dig with it. So I have a Hope diamond. I have a very expensive big carat diamond. People wait online in the museum to see take a look at this diamond. It has beauty, it has value. And what does the person see in a diamond? It's very hard. To say Hashem is the creator is like speaking about the Hope diamond, that it's so hard I can crack a lot of nuts with it. Totally beyond doing justice what the Hope diamond is. So Hashem is Soiv Kalalman. Soiv literally means surrounds the world, but the way the Alter Rebbe explains it, and the Kabbalist form explains it, means how he transcends the world, how he's above coming into the details of the cells in the human body, and the details of the 7 billion people, or the species of animals, or even the details of coming into the different angels that the Nevi'im talk about, the different creatures, spiritual as well as physical. He's beyond those limitations. He is Bligvul. He is infinite, Hashem, and ultimately the Ein Sof. So that's Soiv Kalam. So if a person wants to really have a sense of the majesty of Hashem and the greatness of Hashem, he should meditate and think deeply. He could watch the sunset, he can go look at the Grand Canyon or the Niagara Falls, and he should think, this Grand Canyon is so grand. But the Grand Canyon is less than a fraction of the greatness of Hashem, which transcends greatly. Soiv Kalam. The Grand Canyon is just one piece of earth that is so beautiful that Hashem made for us to see have a sense of awe of Hashem's creation. Now, after he's speaking about Mamala Kalalman and Soiv Kalalman, he says, Ukula Kamei Kaloi Chashiv. And this whole big world before Hashem is like nothing. It's all like nothing. I love sitting by a window when I'm going up on a plane, and I'm watching all the houses in Queens near the airport, JFK airport. As I go up, the houses become smaller and smaller and smaller. First you see cars, and then you don't see the cars anymore. Then you see the houses become tiny, tiny, tiny. And all of Queens and all of New York City and all the politics the mayor and the city council and the traffic cops and people screaming at each other and beeping the horn. Shh, you don't hear it. Because when you go just a little above New York City, the whole New York City is a little nothing. And now think about Hashem. Kula kamei, it's a term from Zohar. Everything before him is like nothing. So it's just, if we think about it and meditate about it and realize that if the Grand Canyon makes us have a sense of awe, like most people see the Grand Canyon, or wonders of nature in the world, then if you really think about the greatness of Hashem in the Mamala Kalalman, and then even the Seif Kalam, how he transcends all the greatness that we see in the physical world and even in the spiritual world, then think about the majesty of Hashem and how all this is nothing. The whole universe is nothing. So think about the majesty of Hashem. So when one meditates about this in depth and focus and thinks about it, Noilda v'nisayra midas yiras haroimemis b'moicha yemachshavtei lira v'lizboishish migdalas yizbarach shein le'soy v'tachlis opachat Hashem b'libay. If he's going to meditate about this, the first feeling that he's going to feel is a sense of awe. Wow. How awesome Hashem is. Now, if you think about how awesome Hashem is, will you go against his will? If we would be focused about how awesome Hashem is. But this is not just Hashem, a God who is a master artist who made a beautiful world. This great master artist who made a beautiful world, he also communicated with us expectations, how he wants us to conduct ourselves. He wants us with kindness, with goodness, with properly, to conduct ourselves in a proper way. And if we would feel that presence of the awesome greatness of Hashem, how it's all nothing, would we think about and consider going against his will? It would be embarrassing for us. He calls this yira boishes. It's a sense of yira, of awe, where he'll be ashamed in the presence of this greatness. He would be ashamed to do something that is foolish in the eyes of Hashem, in Hashem's presence. And this will lead him also to pachad Hashem b'libo. He would even have fear to do something against the will of Hashem. Here he goes into interesting movement. We're speaking about meditation, in-depth meditation, and how this brings a sense of awe. And think about it. I think this is very interesting. He doesn't say meditate to come to love Hashem. The first thing he says to think about is having a sense of awe for Hashem. And then he's going to say, V'shuv yislav libay ba'ava aza kirish be'esh. After awe, he will come to love Hashem with a strong, fiery love. So it's first year and then ava. And you think about it, think about 2 points over here. He doesn't speak about the conventional fear of God. Usually we say Yirat Shamayim is the fear of God. He has Yiras Haraimamis is a sense of awe of the highness of Hashem, of the majesty. Raimamis is majesty. It's a Yira of His majesty, which is translated more accurately as awe instead of fear. The common translation of people, more the layman, of the fear of God is not clear. Fear of what? The most basic fear of God would be Hashem is going to get at you. So if you're not going to behave, listen, He has you. And He can tighten the screws on you. Look at the people in the hospital. If you're not going to behave, tighten the screws. And for some people, they got to think about that too, because sometimes nothing works. And certainly a person who's not meditating about the awesome greatness of Hashem, how He fills the world, and how He transcends the world, and how everything is insignificant in the eyes of Hashem. But seeing someone in the hospital and say, hey, if you're not going to behave, you're going to get sick. Okay. Right? So that may work. And in fact, in a Maimon, the previous Rebbe says, to keep you out of trouble, any thought is okay. So even if you think Hashem is gonna punish you with terrible punishment, if that keeps you straight, then that's okay. But it's not really what Judaism wants from us. Judaism doesn't want from us to stay straight on the straight path, because if not, you're going to be hit by a bolt of lightning. So therefore, he speaks about Yira as Yira Saremimis, in awe for the majesty of Hashem. And that will lead to the love of Hashem. If it's just fear of punishment, that's going to lead him to love Hashem. If in 1 minute I'm thinking about, I better behave because if not, Hashem is going to come after me and punish me. So why am I going to love Hashem? He has a stick over me. I'm scared of him. But if I look at Hashem and I think about, He is awesome. And as we explained before, you think about the world and you think about the energy that creates the world. And you think about how the essence of Hashem's energy transcends this is the Ein Sof and all that. Then you have a real sense of awe, because you can have a sense of awe just from a plain sunset, which is not so plain. So certainly when you think about the Hasidic insight and the philosophy about the majesty of Hashem, you'll have an even deeper sense of awe. Now, when you have awe for something, you can come to love that something. And it will be a very deep love, because people have objects of their love that they idolize. That's a wow factor. And if the wow factor is there, and you look at something or somebody who's the object of your love with a wow factor, then the love is going to be in a more intense love. Love has levels. There could be love of a person who's the object of our love, and we don't have that wow about that person. The love won't have a wow to it. Maybe eventually we'll appreciate the person more than we originally appreciated the person. But here we're saying there's a wow factor. Awesome, Hashem. So therefore, this would lead him to have an awesome love for Hashem. Now, why would he have a love for Hashem? He doesn't explain deeply how this. He gives adjectives. It's a fiery love, b'chasheka, v'chafetza, utshuka, v'nefesh shekeka, fervor, desire, longing, a craving soul for the greatness of Hashem, l'gdulas ein sof baruch hu. Here he's using the Kabbalistic term, the infinite light of Hashem. So this passion and love for Hashem is going to come and follow the sense of awe towards Hashem. He doesn't go into the connection. He brings verses, V'hi kalois hanefesh. It's the soul surrendering itself to Hashem. He brings verses, Nichscha v'gam kol nafshi v'goymer. Uksiv tzama nafshi l'likim v'goymer. Uksiv tzama l'cha nafshi v'goymer. The famous song, tzama l'cha nafshi. The soul thirsts for Hashem. Why does the soul thirst for Hashem? That's a drive for Hashem that comes out of love, which comes after awe. In other books of Chassidus, they connected with this awesome God cares about me. The more awesome he is, and the more majestic he is, and the more transcendent he is, he should be beyond me. Why should he be interested in small me? And when I think about the majesty of Hashem and the greatness of Hashem, and he's still watching over the trillions of cells in my body, and he blesses me and my eyes and my health and my children and my friends and my world. So that awesome Hashem is worried and concerned, so to say, about me. So then I appreciate it much more. Because I have the awesome Hashem. Mamalo Kalal, M'Soiv Kalal, fills the world, transcends the world. Everything is insignificant before him. And from the airplane, if I could focus down on a person and watch over him, and Hashem is way above that and watching over each one of us, Hashgacha Pratis, divine providence under each individual and each cell of every person, then I should appreciate that. And it develops a sense of love. So that will be a meditation and a logical connection. From Tanya here, it seems to be more like an instinct. It's more, the love is like an instinct that is going to be awakened as a result of him meditating about the greatness and the majesty of Hashem. And when he's going to have that majesty in him, he's automatically feel positive towards Hashem. That's what seems more about in Tanya. It's not like a logical meditation and a calculation like I mentioned before. This great, majestic God is so involved in my life, which is a calculation, and which is connected more to a later chapter in Tanya where he speaks about specifically how to meditate towards a sense of love for Hashem. But here he's not speaking about the details. So over here, he's just telling us how it happens. And we do also learn later in Tanya that there is a love instinct. Ava Musuteres. There is a subconscious and hidden love. Musuteres, quote unquote, a hidden love in us that is part of our neshama makeup. But it's subconscious because it's in the psyche deep. So if we're busy with all our mishagasin, our passions are about the physical world. Our passion is about money, ambition, pleasure. So that covers up on the deeper soul drives that are in us. But when a person meditates and focuses that about the majesty of Hashem, so in his mind he's going to be already thinking and become aware of Hashem. So if in his mind he becomes aware of Hashem, so suddenly the love instinct that he has in him, and those are the words of the verses that he brings, and even more supported in the line that follows, he says, "Vatzimoin hu miyisoid ha'eish shebenefesh olikis, akamoy shekosav hativim v'cheinu be'etz chayim, sheyisoid ha'eish belev." He brings a verse from Eitz Chaim, a Kabbalah classic, from the Arizal. Reb Chaim Vital writes from the teachings of the Arizal that the soul has the element of fire. So what does it mean the soul has an element of fire? That's where the thirst that the godly soul has for Hashem. From here, we clearly see that this is a love instinct that is awakened when we meditate about Hashem. So all we have to do is to meditate about the greatness of Hashem. which is in the brain. So it's a brain meditation. And when you meditate with the brain, it's going to give birth naturally to feelings. And these feelings first will come as awe, and then will come as love. And this is connected with the fire. And this too, why does the Alter Rebbe over here have to write about which element and sense this love comes from? This is also to teach us that it's, so to say, ingrained in the makeup of the godly soul, a natural love for Hashem. And he goes on to make a contrast to the intellectual qualities, that the intellectual qualities are cold. That has to do with the intelligence, because intelligence is cold, feelings are hot. Love is hot. Intelligence is cold. Cold has to be calculated. That's what he calls the water element, because water is cold generally. And hot is fire. So there's a fire of the soul, and there's, so to say, the water of the soul. There's the intellectual mechanism, machinery, with which we could use to think and to calculate and to meditate and figure things out, and the right path, the right things, the right ideas. Everything should make sense. So that's cold. Either makes sense or doesn't. It doesn't care what you think. Well, I think. What do you mean you think? Does it make sense or does it make sense? But I have a feeling. That's when you want to do what's right and think through with clarity, it has to be cold. So here we have another description of where the love comes from. That is part of the inner makeup of the godly soul, that love for Hashem, and through meditation it's going to become awakened and aroused. And as we said before, because the mind is very powerful, it's the key to the person. It's the key to the person's character. It's the key to the person's emotion. And the mind can change and form and shape the person. So he spoke here about awe or fear of God and love. And he explains already, it should be understood, this follows by the other emotions. Now, we emphasized until now about how the mind is so powerful that it could change feelings. The Sefer Yetzirah says there are three mothers of emotions, three intellectual qualities: Chachma, Bina, and now until the end of the chapter he's going to speak about Das. Because as we said before, if we want the mind to shape the person, because the mind has a sense of what's right, so it's the ideal machinery to use to shape a person, because it'll figure out what's right. And Hashem also blessed the mind not only as a calculator of right and wrong, but the mind also has the power to effect change in the rest of our being, in our character and emotion. So therefore we should really understand how the mind works. So the Kabbalah speaks about three qualities: Chachma, Bina, Das. In the beginning of the third chapter, he says Chachma is that bolt of lightning, the idea, the seed of the idea. Someone has a question, has an issue, and he thinks about it deeply, boom, he has an idea. Sometimes just a flash, and it actually, in our mind, some of us who've worked on a problem, on a question, we have that flash. We can actually sense it in our brain cells, a flash. But that's just an idea. That's chokhmah. Koyach ma. It's something. It's a koyach. A ma is a something. Ma, what is it? It's a something. What? I don't know yet what. Bina is developing it. Bina is from the word boina, build a structure. So you have an idea. Now, what is the idea? Develop the idea. So you had a question. So you came up with an idea. So now let's sit down with people who can develop the idea. Give it broadness, depth, height. Develop the idea. Make a full picture, details. That is what this is about. Now we're getting to das. Das. Usually das is translated in Hebrew as knowledge. But in Chassidus and Kabbalah, it's something much deeper than that. And das is actually the key to the emotions. That's the intellectual quality that will make change happen. Because das, through das, the person is going to personalize the idea. I could study about Jewish studies. You have college professors who teach Jewish studies. I once worked on a translation of Rambam. In Chabad, there's recordings of me 30 years ago, more than 30 years ago, about classes in Rambam in English. And to make it easier for me, especially to translate some archaic words, so they gave me Yale University made a translation of Maimonides' Code of Law. And they had different professors translating different parts. And there's one section that was translated by a priest, a reverend. The words, it was about tools, different tools that were used in ancient times. Laws of Tumah and Tara about tools. So the plow has so many parts. There's the wooden part, there's this screw, and there's this blade, and the upper blade, the lower blade, and the handle, all these parts. So it was really archaic terminology, and the professor knew all those terms. So I used it to find the translation. But I must say that if it came to a concept, a Gemara concept, so to say, a Talmudic concept, he was off. But translation of the different tools and instruments that were used in ancient times, he did have right. You can be a professor of Judaic studies, but it doesn't mean anything to you. I could study about the Cherokees and the Apaches. You have professors who could tell you everything about the Apaches and what they worshipped and what they used and how they married and all that, but it means nothing to them. So they have an Chochmah and Bina. They have the wisdom, they have the understanding about what this is all about. But it doesn't apply to them. So I can study Tanya and I can say, Grand Canyon has so much. You can look up Grand Canyon, Google Grand Canyon. How wide it is, and how much miles it is, and how much space it is, and how much feet deep it is, and how long it takes the person to go, and all the information, right? And I'll come to if I come to the Grand Canyon, I just have all the calculations, and I don't feel awe that I'm missing something, because I don't feel awe. Because it doesn't mean anything to me. It's interesting calculations. So when I have calculations, it's in Chochmah, in wisdom, and it's in Das, and it's in Bina. I understand it. I developed an idea. I got the idea. It makes sense to me up in the brain, but am I connected with it? I think about I can make a calculation how Hashem is infinite. About the trillions of cells. Okay? But do I realize that God is in those trillions of cells? And that God is connected to me? Das could be even in a secular sense. I understand, I come up with an idea, and I have all the mathematics calculated, but it doesn't become a reality in my mind because I'm not connected to it. To the realization that this is actually that way, and especially connecting it to an emotion. I should love Hashem because He's so kind to me. The realization, not just the calculation, it can be in a human relationship as well. Love a spouse. Yeah, my spouse takes care of me, brings the money, or cooks, or this or that, compliments me, makes me feel good, this or that. It's all in the head, calculations. Check. Never puts me down, check. It's kind to me, check. Serves me breakfast in bed, check. I didn't say who serves who, check. It's all in the head. But I didn't even think about my wife, this wife that I'm married to now, or this husband that I'm married to now, this kind to me. Oh, now I get it. Hello. There's no das. People are not focused. Das is where the focus is. And that's why he says, "V'hadasu meloshin v'odam yoda eschava, v'loshin eskashis v'eschabres shemerkasher dati b'kesher ametz v'chozik mi'oid v'yiska machshavti b'chozik b'dulas ein sev baruch hu v'eina masiyach dati." When the Torah uses the terms to describe when Adam and Chava were together to have children, it says, "V'ha'adam yoda es Chava." He knew Chava. The word yoda. He knew Chava. What do you mean he knew her? Yeah, I know. On the internet dating thing, I know her. No. That's not knowing. Real knowing is coming together with someone. That I'm with that person's my head, and my head is in that person, and I'm in that person's head. So when Adam and Chava came together, that's called knowing Chava. So intellectually, it's not only the calculation, and it's not only understanding, but it's also the realization in the head that this is something that's real in my brain, that's beyond the calculation. That's the attachment to have it. It could be an inventor as well. An inventor can create something with his chachma, creative mind. He could develop the idea on paper and making a report, and he has all the details, and he spoke to the scientists and all of the law, and he got all the information down pat. He has his invention, but he's not excited about it. He's not passionate about it. When in his mind he's thinking about it and he says, something? This is a great idea. It's so much part of me. I'm attached to the idea. It's in the brain still. That attachment in the brain is going to give birth to the emotion. It's the das, that knowing it to the degree that it's become really part of me and I'm being part of that. So now already moved, then I'm going to start to love and be passionate about it. Passion is in the heart. But first it's the creative mind, chachma. Then is bina, understanding. And then I have to, develop it better and come attached to it. Is it really going to work? Is it really a good idea? Do I see it applying to me? Do I see it making me money, for example? And after I have that das, meditation, that last step, and I realize this is really something that's going to make us money, now he's going to become passionate about it. And he explains the same thing is about Hashem. To have that sense of awe, you can think about Hashem and meditate about Hashem, and in the mind you have all the information about it, but you're not really convinced it's so, or you're not really part of your mentality. For you to have that sense of awe of Hashem and the majesty of Hashem, you have to meditate upon it. Even a person who is has the wisdom to understand Hashem. And he has the understanding to Hashem. If he's not going to focus on it, it's not going to bring any feelings. Hinem lo yikasher dat v'yiske machshavte b'choyzer basmod le'b nafshe yirev ava mitis kim demyonis shav. You know, people have delusions. If something is not thought out and deep, he may have feelings, flighting feelings. It's demyonis shav. It's even in human relations, human love. So, there's a term called fall in love. What kind of thing? Why you fall in love? It's an English term. So why'd you fall? You fell for something. When someone fools someone, they say he fell for it, right? I sold him a used car, it was a lemon. I loaded on him, and he fell for it. So therefore, arguably, if you fall in love, means you fell for her or you fell for him. You're a fool. Why'd you fall? Attraction. What kind of love is it? Based on what? There's attraction, chemistry. It's all great. Hashem did create chemistry. Man, woman. This world has been crazy with the chemistry. Even the chemistry is messed up in the world we're living in. But Hashem did create chemistry, and that's healthy. It's part of Hashem's plan, and it works. The chemistry and attraction, etc., etc. But love is much deeper than that, and certainly a real love. Real love comes from the mind. Is the mind in agreement with this love? The Rabbi once told a young lady who was getting engaged to a fine yeshiva bacher, and everything made sense to her, so she agreed to marry this young man. They went out and they liked each other, and she tells the Rebbe, you know, I don't feel in love. I want to feel in love. So the Rebbe tells her, you're reading too much novels. And he says, love really happens. Real love is going to happen with time. Because with time, you'll be kind to him and he'll be kind to you. So now it makes sense. Someone who's kind to you and you're kind to him. And he's caring to you and you're caring to him. So you care for each other. So that makes sense. Why? You're practically strangers. You met each other. You like each other. Things good. Well, it's all in the mind. Yeah, it's a match. I like a smart boy. I like a rich boy. I like a good-looking boy. It's all in the head. But for it to really sink in the head and to make sense, and therefore to result in real feelings, not delusional, flighting feelings, it has to settle. So either you meditate strongly, or it takes a lot of time. And then it's real. And the same thing is our relation with Hashem. Hashem gave us Chabad. He gave us that power. So it's important, that third factor, the third intellectual factor, Chachma Bina, creative mind, the understanding mind. But then the Das factor, that is the focused mind till you personalize the idea. You personalize the ideas in the mind, that's going to give birth to the feeling. It's that Das component of the intellect that is really what gives birth to the actual feelings. And this is what Chabad is about. The attraction of Chabad Hasidus is because Chabad Hasidus is the key to the person. You want to have a relationship with Hashem. You want to have feelings for Hashem. You want to love Hashem. You can't force a feeling, as we said in the beginning. You can't force a feeling. You can't force a relationship. And the problem is that in today's day and age, we're not focused on anything. So we're just living on on just going on and on and on. We've been wound up. I get up in the morning, go to work, this and that. Or instincts, I'm hungry, so I go eat. I'm tired, I go to sleep and get up. I got to make money. So we're wound up on not deep, not focused. We're focused on what we have to do. We're forced to be focused on to do our job. But the depth that we're talking about over here, to have a depth of a human being, certainly a depth of relationship with Hashem. The key is Chabad. The key is to the mind. You can't force a feeling. You can't anger. All of the character, self-esteem we mentioned before, love, all of this are any character qualities of our character. Through the mind, we can have an effect on that. Getting rid of our flaws or working on our flaws and developing a more noble personality, and certainly develop a relationship with Hashem. Hashem gave us the power of the mind. And that's what this chapter is about how we can use the mind. But it's not easy, and it certainly is rewarding, and it can shape and make us. And the Alter Rebbe made Chassidus Chabad to give us the tools with which we can shape ourselves. Ideas about which we can meditate about to make us a better person and a better Jew.